Welcome to our podcast, where we dive into some truly inspiring stories about life transformations later in life. Yep, it's all about how change can spark at any age.
I'm excited to dig into this. It's fascinating how these narratives challenge our ideas about aging and growth.
Absolutely. It's like when people think major transformations only belong to your 20s or 30s. But these stories show that's just not true at all, especially
hmm
when life gets real in your 60s and beyond.
Right. There's this common belief that by a certain age, it's too late to reinvent yourself, but the content really flips that notion on its head.
Exactly. And one of the most striking segments is about that 71-year-old woman who, after being diagnosed with early Alzheimer's, discovered a sort of liberation. She traded the fear of societal judgment for the kind of clarity about what
Yep,
truly matters. It's like the diagnosis, instead of being a curse, became a catalyst for living boldly.
it's almost counterintuitive, isn't it? Most of us would expect such news to be devastating, but instead, she found the freedom to travel and speak her truth without apologies.
Right, and that idea that having mortality clarity can actually free you from decades of social anxiety is powerful. It's like the realization that when time is limited, the petty worries just don't hold the same weight and you can embrace life with
Yeah,
newfound boldness.
I love that perspective. And then there's the piece about love, how a 75-year-old widow defied expectations by remarrying despite her family's concerns. It's a real testament to the notion that love doesn't have an expiration date.
Exactly. Society often expects older adults to retreat into a quiet, subdued life, but instead, here we have someone choosing to follow her heart, even if it meant facing adult children who were worried about so many things like inheritance or appearances. Instead, her decision sparked
Mhm.
joy and proved that passion can flourish at any age.
And speaking of challenging expectations, there was also that story of the 75-year-old woman who enrolled in college after a remark from her granddaughter. It's like, someone calling her out for not understanding homework turned into a journey of determination.
Exactly, like it's almost humorous how sometimes criticism can light a fire under you. She ended up becoming the oldest graduate in her university's history, and younger students started seeking her advice on all sorts of life matters.
Yep.
It's a brilliant reminder that learning doesn't stop with age.
Although I wonder if we might be over romanticizing these transformations. Not every experience later in life is this dramatic spark for reinvention.
That's a fair point. While these stories are uplifting, they are exceptional, and not everyone might have such a clear, transformative moment. But the
hmm
underlying lesson is that change is possible regardless.
Yes, there's definitely a nuance there. It's also about mindset, rejecting external limitations. Isn't it interesting how these individuals refuse to let societal age expectations define them?
Absolutely. Whether it's turning a crisis into an awakening, like the 58-year-old man who had a massive stroke and then discovered the beauty in slowing down, or the father who made the impossible decision to fire his own son for long-term benefit, these narratives highlight that courage is the key ingredient over youth.
Right, that stroke story really stands out. The transformation from shock to post traumatic growth. It's like the crisis forced him to re examine his entire life and priorities.
Yes, it's like his health crisis opened up a window to see what really matters. It shifts the focus from relentless pursuit of success to embracing life's richness in everyday moments and
Yeah.
ultimately finding new purpose.
And then we have the story of the 72-year-old woman who, after facing the monumental loss of a spouse, started over by selling everything and hitting the road in an RV. What an adventurous way to redefine yourself.
Exactly. It's like the idea that your identity doesn't have to be bound by a long-standing role. She proved that you can leave the anchor of past relationships behind and sail into an entirely new chapter of self-discovery. It's
Mhm.
truly liberating.
Speaking of liberation, what do you think about the notion of mortality clarity discussed in the content? It seems like when you're confronted with your limits, You gain a kind of freedom from approval seeking.
That's spot on. Once you're aware that time is finite, the pressure to please others just fades away. Instead, you pursue authenticity, living without that constant need for validation, and that's
Yep.
incredibly empowering.
I also found it fascinating how the material ties in the idea of fear as a teacher. The contention is that the very fears we have can become our most potent instructors if we allow them to guide us.
Exactly. It's like our greatest fears reveal our true desires and help us realign our priorities. The messages here are all about embracing those fears, not as insurmountable obstacles, but as stepping stones to genuine growth.
And then there's that very important distinction between enabling and empowering when dealing with loved ones' struggles. A father choosing to let his son face consequences rather than shielding him. The narrative clearly shows that tough love can be a powerful catalyst for responsibility.
Yes, well said. Empowering means giving someone the space, even if it's painful, to rebuild and learn accountability. It's that delicate balance between protection and tough love that
Mhm.
ultimately paves the way for growth.
What really ties all these stories together for me is that they challenge the ageist assumptions we've long held. Turning limitations into assets is a recurring theme and really encourages us to see age as a catalyst rather than a barrier.
Right. And there's even research to back it up. Studies on neuroplasticity, post traumatic growth, and mortality salience all suggest that our brains and spirits remain remarkably adaptable
Yet,
regardless of age. It's like science is cheering for those late bloomers.
I appreciate how these narratives don't just pat you on the back, they push you to ask, what would you do if age wasn't a factor? It's transformative to think that your potential isn't dictated by the number of candles on your cake.
Exactly. It's the decision to start something new that's so crucial. Whether it's picking up an old passion, finding new love, or learning something entirely unexpected, the only thing holding you back is your own hesitancy. And these stories show that
Mhm.
no matter when you start, the journey is worth it.
It really makes you reflect on your choices. I mean, sometimes we get stuck waiting for the right age, when the reality is there might never be a perfect time.
Exactly. It's like the text challenges us to break free from societal norms, rejecting limitations, authoring our own stories. Every decision, every risk taken later in life is not a surrender, but a reassertion of personal power and an
Yep.
invitation to live fully.
And I love how it emphasizes that authenticity, living with truth, is more liberating than clinging to the expectations set by others.
Absolutely. And that idea that your story isn't over until you decide it's over really resonates deeply. The wisdom and courage that come with experience can fuel a powerful
Mhm.
reinvention, and it dictates that transformation doesn't demand a certain age bracket.
Though I do wonder if we are sometimes overlooking the struggles and challenges that come with starting over later in life. Not every path is as smooth or as inspiring as these stories, right?
That's a very valid point. These examples are somewhat exceptional and they do inspire, but they also acknowledge that the journey isn't easy. It's filled with risks, societal pressures, and sometimes family resistance. But that's exactly what
Yet,
adds depth to their successes.
exactly. They don't just magically transform, they overcome real obstacles, whether it's health crises, loss of loved ones, or harsh personal decisions like finally letting go.
Right, and that's the heart of it. Life may throw you curveballs at any age, but those curveballs can become the triggers for reinvention. It's about embracing every moment, however challenging, and using it as a stepping stone to authentic
Yep,
living.
it almost feels like a rallying cry. It's never too late to begin. Whether you're facing grief, transforming relationships, or daring to follow a new dream, every chapter offers a new opportunity.
Exactly, and the content clearly shows that when you stop letting age define you and start listening to your own inner voice, you unlock a world of possibilities. It's like your past doesn't define your future, it's the decision to transform that counts.
So, if you're sitting there wondering about your next step, remember that those best years might still be ahead of you. The transformation story might just be waiting for you to pick up the pen and write the next chapter.